Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending today's session in Tech Trends in Accounting, Transforming Small Business Accounting. My name is Ann Dwyer. I'm a program manager with McMaster Continuing Education, and I am very pleased today to co-host today's session, Tech Trends in Accounting, Transforming Small Business Accounting, with our colleagues and representatives from RPA Canada. With me today, I have co-hosting the session Mike Saniga, who's Director of Engagement and Learning Innovation at RPA, as well as Umar Chaudhry, who is the Director of Education Outreach at RPA. Gentlemen, welcome. Before we get into the official presentation, I do want to take a minute to acknowledge that McMaster University and McMaster Continuing Education is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and the Haudenosaunee nations, and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Mike and Umar, I'm now going to hand it off to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Anne, for that introduction. I know this is a very, very interesting topic. Looks like we had a lot of enthusiasm with people signing up. Um, I figured I'd start with giving you guys kind of a little bit of a history lesson on how we got here in accounting. And what we'll do is, I'll touch on some of the exciting trends, of course, that are going on, and we'll also kind of give you guys some pointers on how to build your tech stack and what exactly a tech stack is. So the first thing we'll start with, we have an image on the right here in this slide of a manual ledger. So this is how accounting was done for many, many years, way before the computer came. It was handwritten books, meticulous entry. I think I had some clients who still did this up until about 5 years ago. But this is historically how it was done. So um, what happened with these, it was a couple of issues with this. So first of all, of course, it was very time consuming. It would take, hours and hours of putting all your transactions and reconciling everything. This also led to a lot of errors that would be coming into, adding errors. There was, before even calculators came, it was a bit of an issue of adding things up and making sure everything ties in. And these errors, if they go unnoticed, it's going to lead to bad financial statements as well. And finally, it's limited accessibility and there's no security. So whoever's working on the books, it's one person at a time. You can't be sharing this with other people. You have to, physically go and review the books. There was no way to do it any other way. So that's kind of how things started. So you can see back in the day, it was a lot of work that was just busy work. It was a lot of data entry and inefficiency that was going on. So if you go to the next slide, um, basically what's going on today is a huge revolution, especially in the accounting world. And I know there's some technology out there that some of us are very intrigued about, and we're going to touch on some of those. But some of the main ones that we're seeing now is first and foremost automated bookkeeping. So we have software now that is going to get your bookkeeping done automatically. You don't have to key in your bank statements or invoices and any of that stuff. We've kind of got a system of getting automated, and we'll touch a bit more about that as well in later on in this presentation. We also have kind of a more cloud-based system happening in accounting. So for the most part, even the desktop softwares are kind of obsolete, and we're kind of moving away from that. And that just allows for more open work, allows for more transparency in the work that's being done. We can have our work reviewed and accessed anytime we want, and it's a real time. It gives you real time feedback on what's going on. And as accountants, our main job, we kind of forget, is we have to explain how the business is doing and how the business is performing at a given period of time. And this is something that's kind of made that instantly accessible to all the users who need it. And I think the main thing, and this is something that I want to kind of drive home throughout this hour that we have here, is um, the role of an accountant is changing. So historically, it's always been compliance, but now we're going to see, and we'll talk about it a bit more later. Um, the role has kind of evolved from accountants who, bean counters who just push paper, to more of a strategic advisory role. Um, and what that new change brings is it's more value that you're bringing on to the client and to your industry. So these are some things that we have to look forward to today. If we go to the next slide. So when it comes to the top tech trends in accounting, first and foremost, again, we have automation. So what is automation exactly? So we kind of talk about how, things are kind of more seamless and things are all interconnected. So that's essentially what automation is. Um, One advent that has kind of taken over, especially in our firm that I work at, is robotic process automation. So what exactly that is say, for example, we have certain tasks that are being done in a certain order. What we've used is there's various softwares available. So Zapier, Airtable, Zoho, where say once an email is received from a client, that will basically be a trigger for something else to happen. And then when that happens, the next task gets completed, and then another trigger goes off, and another task gets started. So I'll give you an example. So we have at our office, we've set up where whenever we send out invoices or whenever we finish work, we'll have an invoice set. It'll be ready to go as soon as we send it off. What our system does is it drafts follow-up emails immediately. So we'll have the first initial invoice has gone out. Now we have this automatic follow-up for 1 week, and then 3 days, and then 1 day. And then at that point, it kind of creates a meeting or a phone call to the client. So that way we're not kind of chasing around and following up and seeing, hey, what's going on with our receivables, what's happening. We have an automated process that's doing that for us. And that saved us a lot of efficiency. And we found that, our turnover on receivables has improved significantly. Another factor or another piece of that puzzle is when a payment does get made, when it gets registered into our system, a trigger automatically will go off and tell us to cancel all of those remaining reminders, and it'll kind of mark up all as this invoice is finalized and paid, and it'll send the payment receipt to the client. So these are things that, we see those a lot, especially in, say, for example, when you buy something online, these kind of tasks that are already set up and go off. There's no manual entry behind that. But what we're finding in accounting is that was kind of lacking and behind. And we've kind of figured out ways, and with these technologies and with technology becoming more affordable for small business accountants or even in a small and medium-sized enterprises and industry, we found that it's easier to get those softwares and those processes adapted. So these are some things that you want to look at. So I have, a couple of suggestions for Zapier, Airtable, and Zoho. So those are kind of the three top ones that we do have that have been emerging and adopted by accountants around North America and probably worldwide as well. Um, so that's one thing. The other thing is also, if you look at kind of our bookkeeping softwares that we have, um, they've created bankrolls and cash coding features that make the allocation of transactions more seamless. These are things that are, powered by AI. So, you do something once, it'll figure out, okay, this is a specific expense for travel, where every time we see this expense, we're going to book it to that expense line item every time, and you just kind of check off and approve. So that's another trend that's coming up a lot. We've also had the advent of kind of OCR or technology that's reading receipts, invoices, bank statements. And again, this is something that's kind of eliminating the manual work that has been done historically. And it's again, it's saving everyone time. Um, so these are some of the things that come on with automation. I think when we're as accountants, we really should take advantage of kind of the technology that's available for automation, because at the end of the day, what we notice, for those of you who are currently accountants or kind of looking into getting to the accounting field, historically it's been a lot of manual and repetitive tasks, and what automation does is it removes that kind of burden on you, and it places it on the software. So it's definitely something that you want to take advantage of. We can go to the next slide. So the next huge trend that we're seeing is data analytics and real-time reporting. So what's happening now is, when we're doing our work as accountants, the information needs to be presented and given, first of all, as soon as possible and in a presentable way. So historically, you'll typically see a common financial set of financial statements. It'll have your balance sheet. It's going to show you where your cash is, what receivables you have, your payables, and then we'll have your profit and loss for income statement. It'll tell you kind of what revenues you're pulling in, what operating expenses you have, as well as your net income. And these are still, very powerful tools, and it's something that you're always going to have to give to your client. But what we found at our firm, and something that's kind of being more widely adopted, is drilling into the data that's on those statements. So that's kind of where you separate yourself from the pack, and how you actually get data that you can work with and that the client can work with. So I'll give you an example. So uh, we use a Power BI, which is a Microsoft product. And what we do is, whenever we do kind of the financial statements or year-end file for a client, what we do is we actually take all the data, so all the general ledger information, we feed it into Power BI, and it'll give you some real-time important information. So there's one thing of saying, hey, this is what your cash balance was at year end. But there's another thing of showing the client, hey, this is the trend of how your cash was going up and down. It looks like a couple months in the year you guys had a severe negative cash flow, so that's something you're going to want to take care of and address for the future, for the next year. Maybe it's extra financing, or maybe you have to work around collecting your receivables faster. Um, It'll also, again, you can do that line by line. So when you're having a discussion with your client or your controller or CFO, um, you can actually say, hey, this is the numbers, but this is what's behind the numbers. And that's kind of where the big decisions get made, and where you can kind of find pain points and find solutions to those pain points. So that's definitely something that we're looking into very heavily. Um, Tableau is another great software that we use for that, as well as Alteryx. And some people may not know, Excel has a very powerful data analytics tool. And this is something that if you kind of take some time and look into it, there's a lot that you can learn and a lot that you can pick up. And that's something that we want to kind of drive in and say, hey, this is serious stuff, and there's value there. Um, Business intelligence is something that you're going to be seeing a lot in the coming months and years, as AI kind of gets more and more integrated into all these systems. We're going to see kind of the data just getting pulled in from the system and telling you, hey, this is what you should focus on. This is a point that you should bring up or highlight. This is something that you should address urgently. And it'll give you kind of a list of how to prioritize, or what should be top priority, what's low on the priority, what's something that should be an ongoing check and balance. So there's a lot to be gained. This is kind of, in my opinion, one of the major features that's going to separate you from the rest of the pack. If you can come up and present this to a client or show an employer that you understand how to use these tools, it's going to absolutely separate you from the rest of the pack. At our firm, when we look to hire juniors and people straight out of school or finishing their continuing education, the fact that some people have Power BI already on their resumes has been a huge thing. Um, because we can just get them in and they know exactly what to do and where to get their information. Can you go to the next slide? So I think this is the big one that I think most of you are here for, and it's artificial intelligence. So um, I'm sure everyone has heard about ChatGPT and Copilot. I'm sure many of you are already actively using that pretty regularly. I know I am in my workplace. And this is kind of the main thing that is kind of revolutionizing accounting. So essentially, with AI, what it's doing is it's automating complex accounting tasks. It's very great in handling data analysis, forecasting, finding anomalies in financial information that's fed to it. It's also working to increase accuracy and efficiency in the financial process. Um, Natural language processing with these LLM tools It's great for interpreting unstructured data, so you can feed it a bunch of stuff. You can feed it a bunch of emails from a client and kind of summarize what the issues are, what questions they have, and how to address things. So those are some of the main things that AI is starting right now. And it's important to understand that this is kind of just the beginning of AI. So, of course, as things change, as they kind of keep innovating and finding new ways to do things, it's only going to get more and more a part of your everyday life. So it's something that if you haven't used yet, I personally, I tell all our staff to just start using it as much. We do have some guardrails that we need to implement with it when using our AI because, of course, we want to make sure that privacy and security is something that we have at the forefront. But yeah, it's definitely a tool that you need to start using, and the more you use it, the more you learn how to use it effectively, the better you're going to be at work, and uh, it's just going to increase your efficiency. Um, One thing that has been pretty big, and I'll just give a couple examples of how we're using AI in our workplace. So I think the main thing is, and this is something that you guys probably already do, is just drafting emails. A lot of times, especially in accounting, if we have a lot of information that we need to summarize in an email, um, sometimes it can take a while. We've had sometimes where an email might take half an hour, because you have to summarize everything, make sure that it's in a digestible format, make sure everything makes sense, and then, of course, the grammar and structure and everything like that. So, what we've told our staff to do is take a first stab at it, and then just stick it into ChatGPT, ask it to update it or edit it for clarity, for grammar, for structure, and it'll just spit you out. It understands, it takes all the information in, it understands what we're feeding it and what kind of the nature of the email is supposed to be, and it'll spit that out. So that's a common one, which is just another admin type item which you can kind of save time on. Another great one is, and this is something that's been pretty common, is just feeding it your financials and asking it to give you a summary on what's going on. So what we've actually done is whenever we do finish up, say we have a client who's a baker and we've had their financials done, we'll just stick it into ChatGPT and just ask it what it thinks about it. And it'll do a couple things. So first off, it'll do kind of the basic grammar and summarizing and making sure everything ties out. So that's fine. That's great. But it'll also kind of give you a summary that you can give to the client. So it'll tell you, hey, looking at this, it looks like sales went down from last year, but the cost of sales went up. Maybe there's something with the price has to get adjusted, or maybe it's something you want to bring up and inquire about that. Rent's gone up, and it seems to gone up dramatically. Maybe see if there's something going on there. Similarly with repairs and whatnot. So it gives you a great summary. And again, this is a start. It's important to know that AI is very much in its infancy at this point. Um, so you don't want to, what I always warn people is, don't just take what they say as gospel. There's still a lot that's probably missing, but it's just a good guideline or a good starting point for most of your work. And that's kind of where we see AI heading. We can go to the next slide. So I know, and I kind of saw a peek at a question about is AI going to impact accounting careers? And this is something that it's been in the news a lot, and we're kind of seeing a bit of a panic happening with AI and its impact on accounting. So um, I figured I'd give a bit of a story or a background and see if we can tie this in. So um, back in the day, so in the 60s, so if you think before the ATM, so bank tellers back in the day would handle all transactions, so cashing checks, taking deposits, um, and you'd see the bank. If you go to the bank, it's dozens of tellers, lines out the door, especially on payday or when end of the month. And that's pretty much all bank tellers would do. So that was the main function of the bank, was just handling cash and settling transactions. Um, so in 1960s was when the ATM was first introduced. So the ATM was removing a lot of that work from these bank tellers. So instead of having to wait in line and talk to a teller to take out your cash or deposit your cash, you could just simply go to an ATM and put your card in and your PIN and ask it how much you want and move on with your day. So this was removing about 80% of the work for bank tellers. So 80% of the time that was spent by bank tellers was simple transactions. I need to pull this cash out. I need to deposit a check. Um, and then there was a huge fear that at that time, all these bank tellers, they're going to go out of work. They're going to go out of business. We're going to have to mass layoffs. This is, tech is ruining the banking industry, and mass unemployment is going to be a huge issue. So this widespread panic was happening in the 60s, similar to what we're seeing today. If we go to the next slide. So what actually happened was the role of the bank teller evolved. Whereas before it was all administrative kind of bureaucratic work that you're doing, um, ATMs, what they actually ended up doing was creating more free time for these bank tellers. So let them focus on sales, let them focus more on the service, so they're not, trying to rush everyone out the door as much as they could, as fast as they could. And it kind of turned it into more of an advisory role. So if someone would come into the bank, they could say, hey, why you see you don't have a savings account? Do you want to open up a savings account? Come, let's talk about it. Let's talk about your financial goals for the year. And what actually ended up having, instead of banks laying off bank tellers, they actually hired more tellers than before. Um, and the reason for that was simply it went from being a cost related job to an income producing job. So they found kind of saw that, okay, well, we have all these people here and we have so much free time. We can sell more and we can offer more services and more products. And they actually ended up opening more branches. So if we go to the next slide. So this is essentially what's kind of happening with the AI revolution my opinion. And this is something that I've seen in my workplace. We here at RPA have seen this with our accountants as well. Especially, we had our AGM and we had a lot of these discussions, and um, kind of everyone was very optimistic and kind of excited about what was going on. Um, I think the bottom line that we want to kind of make sure that we understand is, um, first of all, AI is not replacing accountants. Um, it's kind of creating this new industry. So it's kind of put the industry at a crossroads, and it's allowed the accountant role to evolve from compliance to advisory. So that's a big thing that I think everyone should take home with this is, historically, if you've looked at your accountant, what was their job? Their job was to get your books in order and file your taxes, and that's it. You'll see him next year. So that's not what's happening anymore. So now, especially in our firm, what we found is the compliance work is pretty much automated and pretty easy to do. So a compliance job that would take, 2, 3 days, we can get that done in half a day now. And what that does is it allows us to kind of look for more opportunities to advise our client and kind of add value to them, which they kind of see that we're providing. And we're able to bill more, charge more. There's more business there. We're able to kind of drill deeper into our clients' books and uh, kind of help them with their business, whether they need financing or if they need some more investment information. So that's kind of what we've seen. So I think, you know, in my opinion, the kind of AI scare that's happening with accounting, um, it's kind of how you look at it. If you look at it as doomsday, by all means it will be. But if you look at it as an opportunity to innovate your role in your job, that's kind of what's going to separate you from the rest, and that's how you're going to build a great career. Not just with a lot of work, but a kind of more fulfilling work, if you ask me. We can go to the next slide. So, with all that being said, one of the takeaways I wanted to do with this session is show you guys how to build your own tech stack. So, if you look in the market, there's hundreds and hundreds of different softwares. And especially for myself, like you can get very, very distracted and it can all be very overwhelming really quickly. So we've created a bit of a three-step process to help you build your tech stack. So first of all, you want to identify your needs, select your core accounting software. That's going to be the base of your kind of your stack. And finally, just integrate some additional tools and see if you can add automation and AI and really build up kind of a stack. And I think some questions are coming in now. What is a tech stack? So a tech stack is essentially your tool. So, you look at, a carpenter or plumber, like they have their toolbox with you. So this is going to be your toolbox, your virtual toolbox. Um, when you come into work every day, instead of taking in, your toolbox, this is going to be what you open your laptop with. And these are the softwares that you're going to rely on. So if we go to the next slide. So the first thing you want to do is identify your needs. So what do you want to do? So first question is, are you an accounting practitioner? Are you working in a company? What do you have available for yourself? So you want to kind of take a step back at your job and look at what your current processes are. So what do you do on a daily basis? So, and then ask yourself what is taking more time than it should? And if what I've kind of looked at is, what are you spending more time on your keyboard with? Or are you keying in a lot of entries? Are you entering a lot of stuff in? Are you on your keyboard a lot? So the idea is to minimize your keyboard use, as strange as that sounds in accounting. So yeah, evaluate your workflows, see what's going on, see what takes longer than it should, and kind of go that way. Pain points and inefficiencies are kind of going to be what you want to focus on. Figure out some objectives and goals so you can say, hey, I want to have a certain type of file done within 2 hours, whereas right now it's taking me six. So build those goals for yourself. You can also say, hey, I want to be able to, when a new client comes in, I want to be able to get them onboarded within an hour. I don't want to have a lot of back and forth. I want to have a client plug and play ready to go as soon as they agree to be our client. Um, Determine what you want to achieve. So is it automation? Are you looking to scale your practice? Are you looking to get work done in a shorter time frame? Do you want to be able to digest large amounts of financial information in a shorter amount of time? So these are kind of the questions that you're going to want to ask yourself. And as always, you just prioritize the features that are important to you and important to your business. That's going to be kind of, what may be good for one firm or one company might not be good for another one. What might work for one person might not work for you. So you always want to keep that in mind. Go to the next slide. So selecting your core accounting software. So, um, at RPA Canada, we have a lot of independent practitioners that work with small, medium-sized businesses. And this is kind of a discussion that is always happening is what tax software are you using, how are you getting your statements done, what bookkeeping service do you use? So these are the three main ones that you're going to want to build a base on. And again, what works for one person might not work for another. What kind of makes cost sense for one person might not for you. So definitely do your research. And what we recommend is, do your information online, but also talk to your network. What we have at RPA, we have kind of our own little network that we have people bounce ideas off of and give their opinions. So it's more or less a virtual forum that we have where everyone can discuss and share ideas and share new softwares that came out and new systems that they have set up in their practices. So that's kind of how I would approach it, to be honest, is use your network to see what works and what can work. Um, and again, it's software that fits your needs. At our firm, we are a QuickBooks firm. Um, However, I know a lot of people have been using Zero, and when you kind of look into it and see kind of what the differences are, it just comes down to personal preferences. Um, so that's going to be your course. So if you have your tax software set up, if you have your accounting software set up, and if you have your financial statement system set up, that's going to be those are going to be the three softwares that you're going to use probably 80% of the time for your workload. If we go to the next slide. So once you have your base software set up, this is where things get kind of fun and interesting. So this is where you're going to start looking at some additional tools and automations and see what you can kind of use to support those base softwares. So this is where kind of the automation pieces come in. This is where the document management and storage comes in. Your OCR PDF technology is going to come in there, and then your customer relationship management software as well. So these are kind of the softwares that I would personally say are going to distinguish you from the rest of the pack. So a couple of things I'd kind of recommend that you would want to look into. First of all, figure out which AI platform you're going to use, um, and understand the kind of what those entail. So, at our firm, we've kind of been transitioning into Copilot because there's some added security that ChatGPT may not have that we kind of need to reassure our clients that their information is safe. So we've started slowly transitioning into Copilot. We'll still use ChatGPT, but we've kind of had that policy out to make sure that no sensitive financial information or personal information is on that. Um, so we're kind of moving away from that. Another software I'd say is get your CRM set up, so your customer relationship management. How are you handling all of your client information? How are you handling all the deadlines that each client has? How are you, allocating work to your staff and setting out those reminders? So HubSpot is a great source for that. Airtable as well as it's a database, cloud-based database software that you can use. And that's what we've kind of found is very kind of easy to I guess customize based on your needs. So that's been a great one I'd recommend you look into. Um, you're also going to want to, once you get some of these things done, I'd highly recommend looking into some of the automation tools. So Zapier is a great one. Basically, what Zapier does is it creates triggers on all your programs. It's pretty much customizable with all the main software providers. So with Xero, QuickBooks, Airtable, HubSpot, and it's kind of that intermediary that's going to connect all of your other softwares so that everything's working in sync in synchronicity. Uh, and then of course, your basic stuff. So your file management, HubDoc is a great one to store your clients' invoices and files and bank statements. You're gonna want to make sure you have a client portal set up as well. So that's kind of a big thing that people are looking at these days. Um, so yeah, lots of different softwares to look into. And again, this is kind of where the fun stuff happens and where you can kind of uh, you know, test A/B test what works, test what doesn't, and kind of basically get your practice or your workplace running as smoothly as possible. Um, so once you have that, that's pretty much your tech stack. This is going to be how you're going to be operating your workplace. And the idea is, again, get as much as of the busy work away from your desk so you can focus more on delivering advisory work to your clients or to your workplace. Go to the next slide. So, here I hope this kind of gave you a good understanding of what's going on with tech trends in the accounting space, especially with regards to small and medium size accounting. Um, at RPA, we've kind of made that commitment to become the tech forward firm. So we've taken serious steps in adapting tech. So we have lifelong learning, so CPD, and making sure that you're up to date with the newest tech trends that are happening. We've established a very dynamic professional network. So our network is very tech savvy and they're very, tech forward and always looking to collaborate and find ways to make the accounting industry as a whole very tech accessible. Um, and we've also looked at, being committed to technological excellence. So focusing on automation, AI, other emerging technologies as they do come, just to prepare accountants for the digital transformation that is happening. So that's kind of our commitment on kind of that stuff. We have Michael Sanega here, who's our director of education outreach. So I'll kind of hand it off to him. He can give you some more information on how our PAs are working to change the future of accounting.
Thanks, Umar. Just want to you guys can hear me? Just want to make sure you can hear me. Perfect. Thank you. And thanks for that, Umar. I know RPA as we've been working through this, and a lot of the messages you had brought up is about the flexibility and customizability of all of these systems. And it's for those of you who are accountants out there, it kind of reminds me of a chart of accounts. It isn't a one size fits all type of thing, right? We've got when Umar talked about a tech stack, it really is all about what your business needs and what your objectives are. I still love my Excel, and I use Copilot with Excel and incorporate it with ChatGPT. I saw a couple of comments about or questions about budgeting software, and a lot of what I have done is in these big inflexible ERP systems like SAP or what have you, but nothing is as flexible as a tried and true Excel file for me anyway. So, but thank you for all of this. We're going to get into some Q&A in a few minutes, but I did want to, for those of you who aren't familiar with RPA, Registered Professional Accountant. So this is actually a pretty old society. It was founded in 1938. As the Canadian Institute of Accredited Public Accountants. And it's morphed over the years. It became the Society of Professional Accountants of Canada in 1978. It offers two designations, a Registered Professional Accountant designation, which you need to qualify. You have prerequisite courses as well as a mandatory professional exam that you would go through. And there are experience requirements as well. Lifetime members can apply to become an APA, an accredited professional accountant. We've really retrenched and refocused as of 2018, 2019 with new leadership on the board and with a lot of the sort of things that were going on in the industry with the amalgamation of the three major accounting bodies. It left this gap in the marketplace for an alternative to CPA. And so we've done a lot of work in partnership with the other accounting bodies here in Canada and around the world, ultimately to progress the interests of accountants, professional accountants here and around the world, and to help develop the new generation of accountants, and particularly for small to mid-sized business, which is the lifeblood of our economy. With that, if you do want to reach out to us, there will be some contact information I'm sure we'll add to the distribution afterwards. So if you're interested in learning more about RPA Canada and how you could become a member or how you can get involved, we would certainly welcome that. So thank you very much. And thank you again, Umar, for that great presentation. And I'll leave it to Anne now.
Thanks very much, Mike and Umar. I'm in awe at some of the advancements we've certainly made by way of technology and AI. I think everyone on this call can appreciate the implications of AI, both the positive and the negative implications. So very exciting time. It was a really insightful presentation, and I certainly am coming away with quite a bit. I just want to make mention of McMaster Continuing Education's accounting programs. We offer a diploma in accounting as well as a certificate in advanced accounting. And our programs were developed in affiliation with our DeGroote School of Business at McMaster University, with industry and professional experts and professional associations. Our programming is open enrollment, so students who are coming to us, learners who are perhaps pursuing their RPA designation and they need a course or two, they can come in, sign up for a course, and apply that towards an external designation. Our courses are taught by practitioners, so you're going to be taught by the CPAs and the RPAs who are actually in the trenches and living and breathing accounting. And what really sets us apart in terms of our programming from some of the other institutions, certainly continuing ed programs, is that we combine the academic caliber and the theory that's expected at the university level. We combine that with the more practical, real world, ready to apply to the workplace. And we feel that that is certainly very important to those of you who are pursuing a career in accounting, because it is all hands-on and you need that practice. And lastly, our programming, both our diploma in accounting and certificate in advanced accounting, all of the courses under those programs have been vetted and reviewed by the professional association, specifically CPA and RPA Canada, and they recognize our courses towards their designations. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this slide. Again, we offer 2 programs. What I will emphasize, though, is the flexibility of our courses that we offer under our programs. We are known for flexibility. We offer a variety of formats so that our offerings suit the needs of those who are taking them. So if you are a more structured individual, you need that structure, or perhaps your schedule permits you to attend a virtual session, we offer virtual courses that are semester-based, much like a half-year undergraduate course. They run the course of perhaps once a week for 3 hours over the course of 12 to 13 weeks. We also offer online self-study, and those are courses that, in terms of a modality, not as structured as the virtual synchronous sessions. They're not as structured. Students do have a start and an end date, but you essentially set your pace. So you're not required to be online at a specified time to listen to a lecture or to participate in group work. You set your own pace to that course. And at this point, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. It was a very informative session. I thank those of you who registered and attended today. I hope you found it as informative as I did. And I'd also like to take a minute and thank Mike and Umar for taking time to prepare today's session. I feel that it was very informative, and I'm sure everyone is leaving today with quite a bit of information. Mike, Umar, do either of you have any final thoughts for today?
No, nothing here. Thank you for having us, Anne. It was a great session. And again, if any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. Happy to help.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. I know everybody's busy as always, so appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.